Bluegrass Jam Along is proud to be sponsored by Collins Guitars and Mandolins, each and every one built from the sound up in Austin, Texas. Hi, it is Matt, and you're listening to Bluegrass Jam Along, the podcast for anyone and everyone who loves bluegrass. Hey everybody, welcome back to Bluegrass Jam Along. This is your Bluegrass Briefing for March 10th, 2025. And what have you been up to? If you've missed the last couple of weeks on the podcast, there's a really fun chat with Tim Stafford about the 50th anniversary of J.D. Crowe and the New South's album, Rounder 0044. Go back and have a listen to that if you missed it. I think there'll be some more stuff about that in the world this year to celebrate 50 years of that record. It's such an icon and such a kind of well-loved record. But do go and listen to what Tim's got to say about the record, because he's passionate about it and always interesting, Tim Stafford. So yeah, check that out. Also, if you missed it, I put out a bite-sized episode on the podcast last week. I was on Mandolins and Beer podcast and had a great chat with Daniel. He was asking me all about how Bluegrass Jam Along started, how I got into bluegrass, lots of stuff. And it was fun to be a guest on somebody else's podcast. And I put out a little chunk of that on mine, but it is also, the full thing is on Daniel's. I'll stick a link in the show notes. If you missed those, go and check them out. Got some great stuff coming up on the podcast in the next couple of weeks. Some mandolin-related stuff particularly. Last week, I had a really cool chat with David Grisman about, all sorts of things. You know, we chatted a little bit about it being 50 years since the David Grisman Quintet got together. We chatted about various bits and pieces. But the thing we really focused on was the last 35 years of Acoustic Disc, which is the label that he started. And that was a fascinating thing to talk about, because he's done so much with that. You know, not only has he put out his own stuff, some historic stuff, some collaborations with people that he's worked with, found some out-of-print stuff and reissued it, collected some bits and pieces together. It's just a really interesting journey, and a label that was set up essentially to put CDs out and has now come full circle into the whole digital world. And just a really interesting conversation, and it was really great to chat to David. He is such a fascinating guy and such a legend of acoustic music. So that is coming out on Wednesday. It's all edited and done and ready to go. Very much looking forward to putting that one out, and it was a really cool chat to get to have. I do not take for granted getting to have these conversations. It's a wonderful thing to get to do, and it's really fun to share them with you. Also, after that, another mandolin-related thing, we've got Sierra Hull coming back onto the podcast to chat about her album A Tiptoe High Wire, which I already love. It's already, I think, my favourite Sierra Hull album, and I've only had it a couple of weeks. But it's great, and it's a really interesting one. She doesn't put out an album very often, and since she put out her previous album, 25 Trips, I've interviewed her twice about various things. So we've spoken kind of on the journey towards this record, and I'm looking forward to hearing about it now it's out, because there's so many things that fascinate me about it. So that is being recorded this week, and that'll be out on the podcast in another week or so. Keep your eyes out for that. I'm also really looking forward to having a chat with Jason Carter about his 3 decades in the Del McCauley Band. Always fun talking to people at sort of moments of change. So yeah, it'd be really interesting to see what he's got to say and what's next. I know he's got a record coming out with Michael Cleveland. He's got his own band. So looking forward to talking to him about that. So that'd be fun. So lots of good stuff happening on the podcast. But let's move on now to news and announcements, which is the bit we call Church Street News. And there's only really one thing in news and announcements this week. Well, it's 2 things, but it's one band, so it's 2 things about one band. And it's I'm With Her, who are a band I'm a big fan of. I've seen the 3 of them play separately. I've not seen the 3 of them play together. And the great news is I'm With Her have a new album coming out. It's called Wild and Clear and Blue, and it's out on May the 9th, so a couple of months till that is out. But very much looking forward to that. And there's a big tour coming up. They're doing Amsterdam, they're doing London. I've got my ticket. I'm really excited about that. And then a whole host of North American dates running through the year, including the Ryman, but so many other places as well. I will stick a link in the show notes where you can go and pre-order the album on all sorts of cool formats. I will also stick a link into the tour dates so you can go and see where they are and book your tickets, because I believe all the tickets are on sale now. But yeah, that is it. That is the exciting news that we've got a new album from I'm With Her on the way, Wild and Clear and Blue, on May the 9th, and loads of tour dates for you to go and cast your eyes over and see where you can go and see them. That's the news. Let's move on to The Grass is New. And if you are a new listener to the podcast, The Grass is New is exactly what it says it is. It's a bunch of new releases. And this week, the first bit is I'm With Her. Also have a single called Ancient Light, which dropped on Friday. I've added it to the Grass is Mostly New 2025 playlist. Go and listen to that if you haven't. It's full of new releases. Every time we talk about stuff on the podcast, I add it to that, and it just builds into a nice chunk of this year's best new music. Ancient Light, great. Really enjoyed it. Listened to that a few times already. Very much enjoying that one. There's a new single from Henhouse Prowlers, which is called Land of Confusion, and it's a Genesis cover. You may well know that if you're a fan of Phil Collins and Genesis, but a different take on that. Henhouse Prowlers single is out. Go and listen to that. There's a new single from Tidal Wave Road called Low Down and Lonesome, and I've added that to the playlist too, along with I'm With Her and Henhouse Prowlers. Cameron Nola, who you may remember was on the podcast a couple of years ago, really interesting guitarist, very inspired and influenced by kind of old-time rural guitar, but just with lots of different influences. There's bits of kind of the British fingerstyle players in there as well, and he's a big Norman Blake fan, and he's got a new track called Secret Water, which I've added to the playlist, which I really like. I was listening to that over the weekend. Very cool. Cameron Nola's Secret Water. And then Sierra Hull's album, A Tiptoe High Wire, is out now. That came out on Friday, the full thing. I was lucky enough to have it a week or so before it came out, so I've been listening to it for a while. But as soon as it came out on Friday, I had to listen again. It's great. It's got variety. It's got a different sort of feel to the last couple of albums. I'll be talking to her about it on Wednesday when I record the interview, so I will save my thoughts and my questions for then. But it's a great album, Tiptoe High Wire. Go and have a listen. So your new bluegrass and related stuff this week: I'm With Her single Ancient Light, Henhouse Prowlers cover of Genesis track Land of Confusion, Tidal Wave Bluegrass Down Low and Lonesome, Cameron Nola's Secret Water, and Sierra Hull's A Tiptoe High Wire album. And that brings me on to Scroll On Buddy, which is just something I've spotted on the social channels and thought I would share. And actually, just seeing people share posts for International Women's Day has been fun, and just kind of celebrating the women who write, play, record, promote, are involved all the way across this genre that we love, bluegrass and old time and string band and all the related stuff. And it goes all the way back to some of the women who've pioneered in this territory, right back to the Carter family, and people like Louise Scruggs, who had a huge influence behind the scenes, and just made me think back to some of my absolute favourite interviews on this podcast with female guests, people like Caitlin Canty or Becky Buller, or the episode I did with Sarah Jarosz on Blue Heron Suite, or the episode I did with Missy Raines, so many of them. Just nice to see all that kind of celebration going on. That's it for Scroll On Buddy. Just in my ears this week, I bought a box set of CDs of Hank Williams, very cheaply, secondhand, and I know most of the tracks on it already, but they came with an extra disc of the health and happiness shows that I didn't know, and these radio broadcasts, taken from air a long time ago. But it's just really cool to hear the format and the something a bit different from Hank, sort of the truncated versions of stuff. There's some fiddle tunes in there, just really enjoying that. I love a bit of Hank Williams. I think in some ways getting into things like Hank Williams was what got me more interested in bluegrass in the first place, and just some of the roots of country and kind of early country music. And anyway, been listening to quite a bit of Hank Williams this week. I'm very much loving it. But that is it for this week. Do check out the show notes, because it's got links to all the stuff we talked about. Do check out the Grass is Mostly New 2025 playlist, which is linked, full of good music. And do check out bluegrassjamalong.com, which is full of all the things you need to know about this podcast, including lists of all the interviews, chord sheets to all the Jam Along stuff, various bits and pieces. That is it for this week. I will see you on Wednesday with a David Grisman interview. In the meantime, have a great week and happy picking. Bluegrass Jam Along is proud to be sponsored by Collins Guitars and Mandolins, each and every one built from the sound up in Austin, Texas.